A safe space is like a shotgun. You get shot, you bleed, and the one creating the safe space is there to support you with the bags of blood you need. Too graphic? Not really. Because in this episode, I get real with the Louiza Doran about what really makes a safe space safe. In this episode, you'll learn how to create a truly safe space, why holding on to your ego will leave your clients worse off than when they first came to you, the difference between bro marketing type coaches and coaches who truly serve, and what to do when you don't know how to effectively serve your clients. Louiza's work is as multifaceted as she is. She is a coach, an educator, and a social impact strategist. Louiza's coaching and consulting practice honors her passion for both social equity and personal empowerment, the two branches of her work which naturally bleed into each other. Her unique approach is a holistic one that considers the person, their identity, and their experiences, as well as the communities in which we live. She uses her training, education, resources, and personal journey to create a signature system that supports, edifies, and guides her clients through a process that allows them to take an honest look at their lives and arms them with the tools necessary to begin living in alignment with their vision, values, and belief system. Louiza's goal is simple: help people heal through decolonizing their beliefs in order to create relationships, businesses, careers, and lives that reflect their values and honor who they are and how they want to live. Thought leaders, this is truly a dynamic episode filled with tons of wisdom bombs. So have a notepad ready, because it is time to uncover the truth about safe spaces with Louiza Doran. Hey, thought leaders, I am back and I'm feeling extra feisty today, which makes me even that much more excited because I have a super feisty as fuck guest on, and she might actually be the most feisty person I have had on this podcast to date. And if you could see her right now, she's super fucking excited at that.
I am very excited.
So I'm super excited to introduce you to Louiza Doran, as in Duran Duran.
Yes.
Louiza, welcome to today's Thought Leader. I am so excited to dive into a conversation with you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, and I mean it. Like, I don't think I've had someone as feisty as you.
I believe it. I am
she owns it.
Fully. Like, I have a nickname. Like, if I was a rapper, they'd call me Little Scotch Bonnet Baby, because the Scotch Bonnet pepper is like the hottest pepper, right? So this is a real thing. Like, Little Scotch Bonnet Baby is my like alter ego rap name because I'm full spice.
Okay, so thought leaders, stay tuned, because at the end of the episode, Little Scotch Bonnet might drop some lyrics.
Don't lie to these people. Maybe in another life.
So, Louiza, one of the things that I have always loved about you since you came into my peripheral on social media, really, is the feistiness, is the fire that you bring, is the intentional education that you share with your spicy twist. Mm-hmm. Because right now we're living in a world where the dynamics are shifting rapidly and things are constantly evolving, and there's a lot of anger coming to the surface, a lot of repressed emotions coming to the surface, a lot of people feeling a lot of real shit, and a lot of people getting triggered. And with that being said, a lot of people creating quote unquote safe spaces.
Yes.
And we've talked a little bit about these quote unquote safe spaces. Right. I'm just going to keep saying quote unquote, air quotes, safe spaces. And you have a pretty amazing perspective on the idea of safe spaces and how they aren't always just that safe, and they're not always needed. And I would love to dive into a conversation about that.
Yes, and yes. Let's do it. Because I said this to you earlier, I have all the opinions on all the things.
Right.
And safe space is definitely one of them, because I think not only is it a word that gets thrown around way too freely with I'm sure people have the intention, right? But like they haven't actually thought through the impact of either like using the word or their actual actions behind it. Slash people, depending on like what kind of work they're in, right? So because I do like a lot of equity work, and I do a lot of equity work with white folks specifically,
right?
Like, a lot of people are also like try to fall back on this idea of like safe space as a crutch in order to like not grow. So there's this really interesting duality, right? To the way that quote unquote safe space is, you know, showing up, not showing up, like not being curated, or you being used as an excuse to avoid, you know, your own growth edge.
Right. Because like growth doesn't really happen in safety.
No,
like,
no.
Ding, 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 ding. Like we don't grow when we feel safe. We don't grow when we're wrapped in bubble wrap and placed in this beautiful, pretty little box. Like I feel like that's where we are coddled.
And I mean, that's literally, yep. Okay. Episode's done. Like that's it. I mean, that really is what it is. I tell every single one of my clients, whether I'm doing equity work with white folk, whether I'm doing liberation work in my mastermind with women of color, when you're stepping into my safe space, my guarantee to you is that no harm will come to you, that I will fiercely protect you from anybody else that comes into that space. Right? Like even at my own peril sometimes, like I don't care how emotionally exhausted I might be. It is my responsibility, if I'm creating a container, to not only ensure that I'm not causing harm, but that nobody else is, right? So that you can show up your freest, your most vulnerable, your most authentic. And that doesn't mean, I should say, but I'm trying to avoid the word but, like, and also what that, you know, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that you might not have to face your mess. It doesn't mean that it might not make you look at the ugliest parts of yourself. In fact, that's the point. A true safe space, a true safe container is going to be so safe mentally, emotionally, physically, that you know that you're going to come to a point in yourself where you're going to look at the parts that you've probably been running from, right? The parts that you haven't been ready or haven't had an environment to be able to truly look at. So all of it's going to come up because you have an authentically safe space where not only is no harm going to come to you, but the individual that created that space is also committed to making sure that when all that we'll call it quote unquote ugly. I actually think, I also want to say this, I celebrate the ugly because that's the duality of humanity.
Definitely.
Right? So when I say ugly, I want to make sure we're not putting social context around it of like, you know, any sort of evaluation of it.
Right. It's like the perceived ugliness.
Perceived ugly, right? Like we all have light and dark within us. That's the duality of our humanity. That's what makes us beautiful. But so like when that darkness comes up, it is your responsibility as a coach or as anyone that's creating that safe space and using that quote unquote, you know, phrase to make sure that you are truly in a position to be able to walk that person through the darkness, to be able to hold their hand through the darkness when they can't see to the left, to the right in front of them. And all they know is one foot is going to move in front of the other. They know that at the end of that darkness, you've been there the whole time, right? They can hear your voice through the darkness. They can feel your hand. They can feel your energy. And that's what they're walking to get them out of that darkness to the light. That's an authentic safe space.
Right. So it's not the idea that's wrong. It's not the idea of a safe space that's wrong. It's the way that it's been put into play.
100%.
And so how do you see it being put into play where it's not authentic?
Let's start right. Where do you want to start?
What not to do?
How to fill humanity. So you know, there's really two sides of it. So I'm going to talk about the easier, quote unquote, quicker one to address, which I just really always like to name. I like to name, and I kind of said this a second ago, but I want to be explicit about it. What I see a lot of times is clients or individuals who are like signing up for personal development in any way, right? Like whatever you need to work through, that will try to like use the red flag of like, oh, this space doesn't feel safe, right? In order to avoid their growth edge.
Yep.
Because what they're really saying is, I anticipated and so I'm going to use my own practice as an example, right? So I anticipated my whiteness being coddled. I anticipated not having to be confronted with the fact that I benefit from a system of oppression that I might not have created, but it still exists. Like, I don't want to have to actually admit those things. I don't want to have to look at those things. Well, baby, maybe you weren't ready for the work, and that's okay. Say that. Don't say, you know what I mean? Like this quote unquote, well, safe space to me means that I get to, no. Safe space means no intentional harm will come to you and you will be protected and guided fiercely. It does not mean that you're not going to be confronted with realities of identity or trauma or whatever it is, right? So I do want to explicitly name that, because I see that a lot of times, especially in like decolonization work that I do. I have a whole podcast episode on like safe space does not mean comfortable space, right? So I do want to say that, but where I see it being really misused, and this is the part that really I have like a physical reaction. Like if people could see me, it like makes me shimmy. Right. Like, literally, it's like that, you know, that like grossed out feeling that you get where you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, like, that doesn't feel good at all.
Like grimy, slimy, like it just, it makes every part, I'm like super big into like frequency and energy. So it like makes every part of my body, like every electron and neuron, like just like rattle out of frequency, right? I see coaches specifically, right? Because we're coaches, so this is our industry. I see coaches, and you know what? And I'm going to expand coaches to be anybody that holds themselves in the regard of like a leader or like a development professional. So maybe you don't call yourself a coach, but if you are a spiritual leader, if you are a thought leader, if you are, right, any sort of professional in that sort of leadership position. Yeah. Right? So, but I'm just going to put that all under the umbrella of coach. I see coaches creating containers and saying like in their kind of either mission or value statement or rules of engagement, like those key marketing terms of like safe space, right? They're using it for branding and marketing purposes because it does mean something and they know what it means and they know what it attracts. But so they're like, this is a safe space. But then what happens is that they are not adequately prepared, whether it's because they don't have the coaching tools or maybe they don't have the resources. Maybe they haven't had enough education around something, right? And or, so that's the like human side of me that's like, I give people the benefit of the doubt. And then the other side of me is like, some of y'all are vile humans and do this on purpose because they're signaling that it's a safe space either by intentionally using the language, right? Or using synonyms, calling people into that space, and then allowing these people to, because of the perception of safety, open up, be vulnerable, step into their quote unquote darkness, potentially have to face, you know, existing or past traumas to relive them, to really be triggered in ways that call for very specific tools to be implemented afterwards, right? Like once those triggers and traumas come up. And then what happens is the benefit of the doubt people are like, oh shit, I have no idea what to do here because I was not prepared. I didn't think this all the way through. I knew that I was supposed to say safe space, but I didn't actually think about what that looked like. And I didn't actually, maybe because I don't have my own coach, I didn't look at, well, if somebody steps into my space and they actually get triggered or they're experiencing or reliving trauma, am I genuinely and authentically ready to support them through that process?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Or there's the other side of it, which is like, yes, you're vulnerable and you're open and you're triggered and you're facing your trauma. You are at your emotional, mental, physical, like lowest. Let me upsell you into my one-on-one program or my year-long coaching. Right. Which I think is the most disgusting thing.
Yes. Thank you, Grow Marketing.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for showing people how to market to people's pain, to get them into your house, to help them rip open their wounds, and then to tell them, and for just $5,000 more, I can help you heal that wound.
Right.
And if that person isn't in a place, first of all, to invest and they walk away, they're walking away with a gaping fucking wound.
Right.
You have just done further damage upon them. And if they choose to say yes in that moment, that is a yes that is not fucking aligned. That is coming out of fear, out of desperation.
Yeah. I was literally, you took the words out of my mouth, right? Because when you're saying yes to something from that state of mind, it's not actually there to serve you long term. It's there to serve an immediate need.
Yeah.
And that's not the point of coaching, right? That's literally not the point of coaching. Right. I'm not here to be a Band-Aid for anybody.
Right. Nor am I here to be a solution.
Right. Right? Like, you are your own solution. My job is to guide you and provide tools and a space for you to explore. That's my job. Your job is to with that guidance, find, right? You find your own solutions within yourself. That's why cookie cutter coaching, like, no knock on anybody, no shade, but cookie cutter coaching programs to me are so disingenuous, because I'm like, the point of a coach is to serve a client in the most authentic way that they can be served. And the right clients that are called to you because they're genuinely, authentically in alignment with either your practices, your beliefs, how you, right? Like how you coach and guide. So you should probably figure out how to serve that individual person, because no two people are the same.
Right. It's like, and it's so crazy that we actually have to say things like authentic safe space, authentic service. Like, how fucked up are we that we now have to throw the word authentic in front of everything? Like, authentic service, what happened to service? People are misconstruing service and abusing it and what it actually truly is. Right. It's crazy. You know, I will fully admit and fully fucking own that when I was first trained as a coach, in the enrollment process, it was to bring that to that point of pain. I did that once on one enrollment call in my life. And I enrolled that person, and the coaching relationship did not feel aligned at all. And I felt icky the entire time, like from the enrollment process to the end. And I swore to myself, there is a better way. Like, there's a better way to do this that isn't always like dangling someone's wound or getting them to fucking open up and leave them in that state of pain. Like, what is it that you're walking them into? What is it that they actually desire, versus let me see how far I can get you into your pain, and then sell you from that space. And for me personally, it's been a massive learning process of trying different things, but it always comes down to me and who I'm being. Like, if I stay aligned with my values, if I know who I am, if I am remaining devoted to my inner work, that shines in the work that I do with other people. And I feel like that's what's missing. And you had said it earlier, but when people create that space, the quote unquote safe space, if you're not trained to do that work, if you're not trained to support these people, then that means you haven't done enough work. Period.
I mean, 100%. Like, so this is my analogy that I always use, because if any of you listening, like, follow me anywhere, I'm really big on like vivid analogies. So safe space, and this is going to sound wild, but follow me. Safe space is effectively a shotgun. You are asking somebody to stand at the end of targeting practice and take a shotgun wound to the chest. Now, the way in which it is misused is that now this person is like laying on the floor. They've got a gaping hole in their chest. They're bleeding out. And you're just like standing over them like, it would be really convenient if I knew how to heal that wound, wouldn't it? It would be really convenient if I had, you know, some vials of blood, bags of blood right here, and I had a surgical team and I could fix that for you. Or, you know, let's take it. If we're at Hogwarts, I'm a like super Harry Potter nerd fan.
Amazing.
Even better, we're at Wakanda, because I'm a huge Black Panther fan. We're in Wakanda, right? Just a little boop, vibranium, you're good. Problem solved. Oh, you don't want to die, but you're barely hanging on to life? Well, for $5,000 more, I could fix you, I suppose.
Right.
Who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
I'm literally dying, right? Mm-hmm. Because the thing is, I don't know if y'all have experienced trauma or have had a genuine, authentic trigger. And I want to be really explicit here too. When I say trigger, I don't actually mean like, oh, I'm hurt by something. I'm offended. Mm-hmm. I am sensitive to something. I authentically mean a trigger. Like you can feel it in your body. There's a visceral, physical, emotional reaction that really takes you back to that authentic place, right? That genuine, true place where the trauma first occurred. Mm-hmm. So when you're in that place, you will do anything to get out of it, even if it's just for a moment.
Right. Because when you're back in that place, you're back in that space of desperation.
Exactly. You will mortgage your house for a $20,000 program. You will get a credit card and go into wild debt. You will put your livelihood at stake because all you want to do is not feel like there's a gaping wound in your chest. Right? So that is what's happening. What should be happening, what authentic service is, what service is.
Yeah, service is what it is,
service, period, is, okay, I understand that I have a shotgun in my hand. I understand that you're terrified, potentially, and that you are not really sure what's going to happen. And I am honored by the amount of trust that you are putting in my hands. And I am honored that you have chosen me to walk through this process with you. And I'm about to shoot you in the chest. Okay, you've been shot. You're on the floor. You're bleeding. Take a deep breath. Continue to trust in the process. Continue to trust in me. Continue to have faith in me. I'm going to give you all of the tools that you need through this process for it not to feel like your life is ending, and for you to be able to heal yourself, for you to be able to find those bits and pieces of vibranium within yourself to heal that wound. And I'm going to be here every step of the way. I will be your life support, right? You are not going to die. You don't need those surgeons. You don't need my $5,000 program. All you need is right here in that moment. Because that is my responsibility as a coach. If I'm using the phrase safe space, if I am creating that container, then everybody who takes a shotgun bullet to the chest also gets that back end process. Period. That should be the standard. Exactly. End of story.
Yeah. And it's sad that that's not, and it's sad that industries like the coaching industry, I mean, we see it happening in consulting, we see it happening in all sorts of industries now that are service-based, where it's really an abuse of responsibility.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand how much responsibility comes with the work that we do, especially when we're working with people and their lives. Like we literally, like people's lives are in our hands.
Yeah.
And people refuse to see that and instead focus on the money.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Here's the money that lies in my hands. Amazing. Right. No. Their lives are in your hands.
Right.
Okay. And they've trusted you. You need to honor the fact that they've trusted you and own your responsibility to support them powerfully, to show up for them, to honor them.
Right.
As they go through this process, to witness them.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I mean, my entire practice is predicated on one phrase: honoring people's humanity. Like that is the foundation of my pedagogy, regardless of like which, right, like iteration of coaching program I'm teaching or where I exist in the world. Like that is my fundamental coaching pedagogy. That is how I navigate the world. But so what that also means, because I don't want this to go unsaid, is for the population of coaches that think that they are properly equipped to create safe space. And then they get into a position where they're like, oh, fuck, I wasn't ready. Like I thought I was, and I've shot this person, and now I'm freaking the fuck out, and I don't have vibranium, and I don't know how to teach them or guide them to like find the vibranium, right? Like those people that are not doing it because of like bro marketing also have to remember that coaching and service cannot include ego and pride. Because what I do see is in that moment, and I've literally witnessed it, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a shit show. Like, I see it happening. I've witnessed coaches in this moment where they, right, shotgun goes off. Client has this, or, you know, has this gaping wound in their chest. And there's this moment of like, oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And they're freaking out.
Right.
But like, of course, they're like, you know, whether they're leading the retreat or the online program or the workshop, they're like trying to keep it together. And so either what ends up happening is they try to address it, but it like doesn't get addressed. Or they're just like, thank you so much for sharing. And they move on, right? Instead of just naming, yes, thank you for sharing. I witness you and I see you. And what I am acknowledging in this moment is that I don't actually have the tools, right? And use whatever language you want to use, but like, I don't actually have the tools to guide you through the process that is coming up right now. I thought I did. And I authentically and genuinely from the bottom of my heart apologize. But what I am going to do, because you did trust me and you did choose me, and I do take this responsibility seriously, is find the appropriate coach to support you through this. And whether it is a year-long program, like I go to I haven't had to like actually do this, but when I coach other coaches and clients, I tell them, my expectation is that you go to the extreme of saying, okay, I'm getting paid X amount. I'm going to subsidize this additional coach to come in as a guest coach in my program for you, because that is my responsibility. I'm not then going to put the financial burden on you to find a coach to support you through something when I put you in that situation, right? And I actually don't have the tools.
Yeah.
Right? I think about it like, I don't know if in LA y'all have tool libraries, but here we do. And they're amazing. I'm like really handy and crafty. So I go to the tool library. When I don't have a tool at home, but I want to fix something in my house, I literally go to the tool library and I'm like, hey, I need this tool. And I pay for it for the amount of time that I need it. And I bring it home and I use it and then I take it back. Right. It's no different, right? Like, think of other coaches as your tool library. But it is your responsibility, if you don't own that tool, to then subsidize it for the client as well.
Definitely.
Right.
And that's like honoring the client at the deepest level versus just treating them as another number or another paycheck, but actually honoring the fact that they trust you with their life. Their life. This is a big responsibility. And it's like, this is why I keep such an incredible and intimate network of other coaches, consultants, specialists, experts in my back pocket, because I don't know everything. And I think, you know, what you said about dropping the ego earlier, it's so true. And I talk about this all the time, is like, you can have expertise and still be a student. And in fact, that's what makes a stronger leader, is that you're devoted to being a student, to always growing, to always learning. You know, I think it's harmful when you try and be the end all be all coach or expert to your clients, because there's always more to learn. And when you pigeonhole yourself in that way, you're putting yourself in a position where your ego's like, but no, I have to have all the answers. I need to control this. I need to do this on my own. And you could fuck people up and create more damage than good. Yeah.
I mean, I'm constantly thinking about what I call my harm footprint. Right? So for me, that's why, so I have this, and I've said this many times publicly, I will not work with a coach and or align myself in any way with a coach that is not either in like an active mastermind or has their own coach currently. Because the moment that we stop as individuals, the moment that we stop learning is the moment that we stop living. And life is an ever evolving thing. We live in an ecosystem that is constantly growing. But in order to grow, you need to feed yourself, right? So as a coach, if I want to continue to grow as a coach, then I need to feed myself, right, the fruits of off the like coaching knowledge tree, right? Like constantly learning. And I think that that's a really big indicator. Like I tell everybody, if they're like, oh, what should I look for in a coach? I'm like, ask them if they're either like part of a mastermind or right, like some sort of coaching container,
right,
or program in some sort of way. right? Like, and it doesn't have to be like something very official. Like, I don't care if you're taking classes at your local junior college because you realize that you want to add an element of sexual psychology. I don't know. But like, you know, you have to constantly be learning, because the moment that somebody says like, I've got it all figured out, means that they're actually not ready to face the ever evolving, like very dynamic realities of our own humanity. Right. And so that's something for me. I'm like, okay, if I know that I look for that in other people, like, I'm going to constantly strive to do that, because if I think I have it all figured out, just like you said, like, I'm going to cause a lot of harm, because it also means that I don't have the capacity to be like, oh, I actually don't know.
Right. You don't allow yourself, you're not willing to not know. And there's so much that we don't know. And it's owning what we don't know that we gain a lot of power. Like, we feel empowered when we own how much we don't know, because that's when the doors open to like, wow, cool. Let me get curious about this. Let me learn about this. Let me immerse myself in this. And for me, it's always like, is the curiosity factor. It's like, if there's something that I really want to learn, like I remember NLP came into my peripheral and I was like, oh, this feels like a really good tool and I really love it. So I went and immersed myself in NLP work. And, you know, I've been immersing myself in different facets of the personal development industry because of a curiosity.
Right.
Not because like, oh, let me see how I can use this to get other clients. No, it's always been like this genuine curiosity of like, hey, this looks like a really cool tool. Let me immerse myself in it. Let me try it on me first.
Right.
Try it on.
Yeah.
See how this fits. Let me do the work first. Let me walk the path first. Let me walk through the fucking fire and crawl through the dirt first. And then I'll have a better idea of if I feel like this is a tool that I can also use for my clients. And that's the work that I think a lot of these people are bypassing, is their own work. It's like going through that fire themselves, crawling through the mud themselves, like doing the fucking dirty work in your own life, facing your shadows day in and day out, so that you understand, so that you can come from a place of like genuine compassion for your clients and what they're going through.
Yeah. And I also think that that very specifically ties back into service. Because if I'm going to honor my clients and their process and their humanity, and I'm going to take on the responsibility and take that responsibility seriously, then I need to make sure that to be of the utmost service, I'm just at the top of my game, right? Like, if you look at surgeons, every time a new piece of technology comes out, they're not going to sit there and be like, I'm just going to keep doing it this old way. Right? They go to conferences and they figure it out and they learn how to do this new amazing thing with a new tool, because they know that that is how they save lives. And that is a better way to save lives, and it has better outcomes, and so on and so forth. So it literally is no different. And I also want to say, like, I very specifically, because people are probably listening like, she's using a lot of medical references, but that's because that's how, when you said it, like, we have people's lives in our hand. I don't feel like my responsibility to my clients is any different than my surgeon's responsibility is to me.
Exactly. People take it too lightly.
Way too lightly.
And this is not a light thing.
Right.
Definitely not a light thing. Like, we're talking about people's dramas and their programming and their spiritual, emotional, mental, physical well-being.
Yeah.
That is not to be taken lightly.
At all. And that's why I literally say, like, I'm literally honored. Anytime somebody signs up to work with me, I'm like, I am so genuinely honored that you chose me. Right?
So we pretty much say the exact same
We're
thing.
the same person. No, just
yeah, I always say, like, I am so, and I mean it, I am so honored that you've chosen me as your coach. Like, it is such a beautiful responsibility. And for them to choose me, wow. Like, okay, let's fucking co-create some magic.
Yes. Right? Yes, exactly. Like,
you know, I always say to my clients, like, your transformation is my only objective, period. That's it. I'm in it for you, with you.
Right.
And this, don't get me wrong, I didn't start off that way, but it's something that I've learned and something that I've evolved into. And I encourage other coaches, consultants, strategists, whatever you are, to step into that, to step into a place of like absolute service.
Yeah. And it's funny, and this is like tangential, but also like, we'll like bring it kind of full circle. So I actually stepped into coaching because I had my whole life fall apart, right? Like literally like divorce, walked away from my businesses, literally was like, fuck it, burn it down. I don't care, walk away. And I was in desperate need of a coach. Like you talk about walking through the fire, like I was walking through the fire. And so I had the experience on the opposite side. I'm walking in, or like, looking for coaches and looking for guides and a personal development professional that when they're all saying like, oh, safe space, safe space, safe space. And I'm like, this isn't safe. Like, like I'm here now, and no parts of this feel safe. I'm here now. And especially as, a woman of color that holds other marginalized identities, I'm like, you haven't thought about me, right? Like, you have not thought about how to serve me. And this is why I say every person is different. Yeah. So you haven't thought about how to serve me based on my experiences. You haven't thought about how to serve me based on my identities. And I had already come from a background of, I had been an educator, and I come from like a social justice activist and like doing restorative justice work. So for me, I didn't know I was a coach, but I just didn't know that title. Right. But so like I go through all my work and I'm looking around and I'm like, I was still having to put myself in situations where it's like, I need this work. I want this work. And I still don't feel safe actually, but like everywhere I look, there's no safety, and I'm being told it's safe, but it's not authentically safe, and I'm not authentically being served. Clearly, I need to just do this. Like, so I came from it from the other side of like, and then, as I got deeper into it, I won't say that all coaches are bad. Like, I'm not going to say that at all. But overwhelmingly, that was my reality. All I wanted was to be able to walk into a space and and once I was told it was safe, have it authentically be safe, without getting to a point of like, and thankfully I have a lot of self-awareness, even like as I was walking into it. So I can feel my own stuff coming up, and I'm like, I don't actually think this is a safe space. So like, let me just push it all down, which meant I've now spent money. More harm has been caused to me. I'm not actually transforming. Instead, I'm having like the bubbling ups of like trauma and potentially really amazing growth edges that I could have worked through and had these phenomenal transformations, but I'm just like suppressing it. Right. And then I did find really amazing coaches. Like, so that's like the nice part of it. But like, I just wanted to really name that, because that is genuinely what goes on for clients on the other end. Right. So it's like, what's that hair club? Like, I'm not just the president, I'm the member, like, or I'm a member or whatever. That's why when I speak about this, I speak with so much passion, and I can like with all my spice say like, you put your ego and your pride aside, and, or if you're doing bro marketing, I genuinely think you're a trash human. And like, you probably need some deity. I don't care who you believe in. Like, you need something, because you're vile, because I've been on the other side of it. And actually, thank you to all of you, because you're all the reasons that I was like, cool, I found my purpose. Like, let me step into it. Right. So it's like a yes and like. Yeah,
totally. I mean, we learn from our own experiences, and
exactly.
I've had that experience a few times. I'm in it actually right now, currently. Oh, no. And am, it's a 5-figure investment. This is the highest coach, and mentor. And
that's a lot for not having safety.
Right. And it's not even like the safety, it's a lack of a container. And so I have been practicing using my voice, which has been like a really incredible experience. Actually, I feel like this is all divinely meant to happen. Yeah. Just like really using my voice and claiming like, nope, this is what I signed up for, and this is what I'm going to walk away with. So let's create this. And I share that only because for those of you listening who feel like you're in that situation right now with a coach or with a mentor, like, please do not hesitate to share what you're feeling. And again, if they make it feel unsafe, like, you get to walk away from that.
Yeah.
Because staying in that container will do a lot more damage than it will good.
Yep.
And then you get to take that as an experience that you learn from.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I even go so far, like I know a lot of coaches will say like, no refunds. If you leave the program, you leave the program, da, 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 da. Listen, I will fight you all day long. Give me my money. Like, you know what I mean? Because if I buy a car and it's a lemon, actually I get my money back. Right. Like I've actually been through this. Like I actually bought a lemon and I was like, cool, give me my money back.
Yeah.
It's no different. Right. So I also want to like really urge people and give people permission. Like, do not let fine print keep you from asking and demanding either that you get the services that you were told you were going to get. And if you're not going to get them, like you might not get your money back, but you better push for it.
Yeah.
You know, because I know a lot of coaches, especially in that bro marketing, they're bullies.
Yeah.
That's the other side of it, right? Because that's the whole point of a bully. Strip somebody down to where they feel powerless and vulnerable and desperate, and then take from them. And if they try to rise up in their power, crush them. That is what it is. And that's why I think it's vile.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, in my own practice, I tell people like, look, if you ever, I mean, also I think I can say it because I'm very confident in my coaching abilities.
Right.
but for me, it's like, I'm never going to make the assumption that I always get it right. And in the horrible instance that I cannot repair something, I am happy to give you the rest of your money, right? Like, so if you bought into my full year program and you paid in full, let me give you a return on the rest of your investment.
Right. Again, dropping the ego.
It's not about me.
Client first.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what this work is all about.
Right. Because it's not about me.
No. I mean, if you got into this work, if you got into service just for you,
you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Hashtag you're doing it wrong.
Right. Hashtag that's not how that works.
That's not how that works. Right. I mean, service, yes, there could be like a dual intention. Like, yes, I work in service because I feel amazing when I do it. So yes, there's a dual intention. There's me and I'm here to serve. Right. I have gifts. Right. I know what I can support people with, and I'm confident in my ability to fucking do so. So I will take a stand for people when they need it. And I'm confident in doing that. And I love doing it.
Right.
So you can have that, but there has to be the what's in it for them.
Right.
This isn't just what's in it for you. This is what's in it for them. You know, and it's, yeah, I mean, we went from talking about safe spaces to really integrity in the coaching industry to all shades in between. And I would love for you to wrap this up in a bow with some takeaways for people. Something that they can, you know, if you're listening thus far, that means you resonate with what's being said, right? So what can they start to do to put some of this into practice?
Yeah. So I will say for coaches, this is literally what I tell my own clients. When you rewind, every single one of us needs to do our own self-assessment constantly. So that's the first thing. You need to be constantly assessing yourself and your program under the guise of who am I serving? How am I serving them? And do I have all the tools that I need to best serve them? Right? And obviously, if you're not clear on the first two, you then can't do the second part, which I'm going to say. But the third part of do I have all the tools, right? This is the idea of constantly doing the work. Like, okay, let me go get those tools. The second part is, am I creating a container that is authentically, truly 100% safe? And obviously, in order to answer that question, you need to know who you're serving and how you're serving them, right? Because safety for different identities looks very different.
Definitely.
Especially if it's a mixed population. So who am I serving? Safety for that population. And then am I prepared to repair any harm caused by myself or anyone else? Am I prepared, again, this comes into the tools, am I prepared to provide the resources needed for healing and support? And am I prepared to protect?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, if I was like, those are my two big takeaways from all of this.
Right.
It really low key comes down to like, your takeaway is your self-assessment.
Right.
But like, you should be running through that.
Yeah.
That you should be able to answer every single one of those questions off the top of your head. Super easy. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you can't, that's okay. That just means you need to explore that.
Right. If you can't admit it, don't try and make something up.
Right.
Like, admit it.
Because nobody's looking at this but you.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my last takeaway is, if you are doing those things and if you are doing it correctly, I promise, I actually 100% guarantee you that your coaching practice will have longevity, success, and be full of people that will follow you to the ends of the earth. Mm-hmm. And not in like a weird guru like kind of way, but because they have so much trust and faith in your process and the way in which you've shown up and supported them, mm-hmm. that everything you do is an easy yes. Mm. And because of that, they will then turn around, and the way that they will talk about you and your participation in their transformation is marketing like you could not believe. Mm. So I say that to say, instead of focusing on these really vile bro tactics, right? If you are authentically in service and you've done, part 1 and part 2, that last part, bro, I promise you, like, I don't do any traditional marketing, and people they're like, how the fuck? And I'm like, well, because I do part 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And then everybody that I touch is literally a walking testimony. I have had people stop me in the street because they recognize my voice. Mm-hmm. I am not kidding. Or like, I'll be saying something and they're like, are you Louise from That's Not How That Works? Or like, do you teach Working Towards Woke? And I'm like, this is really fucking weird. Like, right? But that's, if you are truly in service, then your impact is immeasurable.
Right. Service is felt. And that goes far deeper than marketing. That goes 100%. Far deeper. That pierces right through the bullshit and straight into the heart.
Right.
It's felt.
Because you're connecting with the most human parts of people in the most authentic way.
Yes.
And people can feel that. Mm-hmm. And then honestly, there's nothing better than just the organic chatter that occurs amongst humans when they light up, when they talk about, again, your hand in their human development and their personal process. Yeah. So I say that to say, like, you got to trust your own process, but it's really one of the most authentic, beautiful ways to do it. So those would be my 3 big takeaways.
That's amazing. And those are amazing takeaways. And I love that you provide questions for listeners to really answer, right? And again, like coming down to doing the work, like hit rewind, write those questions down, journal on them, see what comes up, like do the fucking work and take a stand for the responsibility of the work that you do, and take a stand for your clients and take a stand for yourself. Louiza, thank you so much for bringing the feistiness to this show. And there's so much good information that was shared in this episode, some amazing wisdom that I know if people like take this, listen to it, and really integrate this into their practice of their businesses, that they will notice a difference both in how they're feeling and running it, and the experiences that they are co-creating with their clients.
Right.
Yeah. Let's all work together to create real safe spaces.
And scene, right? Like that was perfect. Yeah, because it's a collaboration. So yeah, that's exactly what it is. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell our listeners how they can stalk you online, and then I will of course have all these links in the show notes.
Okay. So there's always my website, louizadoran.com, obviously spelled just like my name. You can find me on Facebook, the Louiza Doran. You can find me on Instagram, according to Weezus. That link is also on my Facebook. And really, if you go to one of those 3 places, there's links to all the things like programs and groups and the podcast and everything else.
FYI, subscribe to our podcast. It's epic.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell them about it.
Yeah, so That's Not How That Works
that's the actual name.
That's the actual name. That's Not How That Works is a podcast that I co-host with the absolutely amazing Trudy LeBron,
who was on this show earlier. So
and we have conversations around like the decolonization of the it's really like the world, but through the lens of the personal development and coaching industry, because we're both coaches, and it really focuses on oppression, marginalization, and the way in which we need to make space and create safe space for different folks. So if you're trying to do equity work and you're trying to become an accomplice and really use any amount of privilege that you have to create a more equitable world for everyone, we give you tips and tricks, and we have conversations, and I bring full fucking spice all the time.
She brings wait, what was the pepper?
Little Scotch Bonnet Baby.
Little Scotch Bonnet Baby.
She for sure shows up on the podcast all the time.
So if you digged this episode between me and Louisa, make sure you go to her podcast and hit subscribe and get more of her. Plus, all the links are going to be in the show notes. Louisa, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to our listeners, thank you for joining me and Louisa on today's Thought Leader, where we're challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you enjoyed this episode between me and Louisa, you gained an insight or something, some sort of powerful nudge, please be sure to drop a rating and review on iTunes and hit us up on social media and let us know that you listened, that you enjoyed it. And then, of course, share it with a friend. Share. Just share this shit.
Just share it.
Thank you, everyone. And I will see you here on Thursday for a brand new episode of Today's Thought Leader.